As we all know, Grinding Gear Games is back in the office. And how do we know that? Well, they told us. They told us in this tweet. This was a couple of days ago. They're back and that they're focusing on future hot fixes that are coming. And this hot fix is going to require Realm servers to be restarted. It will not be an economy reset. And a couple of days after that tweet, we got this announcement. This Sunday, January 12th at 12:30 p.m. PST, we'll release a short announcement video with details of the upcoming patch 0.1 for Path of Exile 2 and the issues we are addressing in it. Following the patch announcement, game directors Jonathan and Mark will join the Tavern Talk podcast with community streamers Gazzy and Darth Microtransaction to discuss the details and answer your burning questions. I've been thinking, you know what? There's a lot of, I've referred to it as noise out there, a lot of opinions. This needs to be fixed, that needs to be fixed. So I thought, you know what? Let's have some fun. And I thought of this. Let me create a tier list on the issues that I feel are in the game and that or Grinding Gear Games should address and how to address them and in what priority. And this is the genesis of the tier list, which typically is used to rank video games. It's also used actually to rank builds and classes and all that. It's used for a lot of things. So what the heck? Let's have some fun on what some might perceive to be a serious issue. These are problems in the game, and I completely agree. Although this is a video game, so the term serious, you can debate that, but it is serious when it comes to gamers because it impacts their fun, replayability, and all that kind of stuff. So I totally understand that point of view. Hence why I want to do this video. So I'm going to take the issues that I feel are an issue in the game. Some are very low and minuscule. Some are very hot and high. And I would classify as this must be addressed. And it's going to be reflected in this chart. But I do want to put a big, huge warning prior to me getting into this video. And that is, please understand that this is my list and it's my ranking. And it's based off of me playing a lot of Path of Exile 2. Just so you know, I've played Path of Exile 2 from the second it was released. That weekend up until Monday, I literally played it 12 to 18 hours every day. I have a lot of time in the game. By no means does that make me an expert, but I do want to kind of lay that out there so you understand where I'm coming from. So I've played trade, and right now, actually, currently, I'm in my second day of playing solo self-found. So I've had some experience in both modes. I have not tried hardcore. That is something that I'm going to do. But my point is, these are issues that have surfaced to me vis-a-vis my experience or my community telling me about it, or information I've seen out with other content creators or on Reddit or X. So I just want to keep that in mind. And apologies in advance if I've missed something that's near and dear to your heart. That's not my intent, but please keep that in mind as you watch this video, if I haven't lost you already. Okay, so these are the issues that I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to rank, actually. I'm not going to talk about all of them in detail. Now, what I am going to do, just to give you a premise and the layout of the video, right after this, I'm going to handpick a couple of these, a little bit more, and go into a little bit of it, give it a brief overview of what the sentiment is out there around this issue. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to rank these, and we'll see what you think. Let's get to the video. Let's start with loot. While there have been improvements since launch, the majority of rares still feel useless. Personally, I'd say about 90% of the loot I've seen is trash, with only 1% being useful. This goes against the quality over quantity philosophy we were told about. Here's where it gets tricky. Poor loot also impacts crafting. When your base items are bad, crafting becomes an RNG nightmare. Sure, there's been a patch to improve loot and currency drops, and while currency feels better now, rares still fall short. GGG needs to decide if they're sticking with this design philosophy or if they'll make further adjustments. Right now, the balance feels off for both casual and hardcore players alike. Next up, crafting. In principle, I love the new crafting system, but in practice, it feels like too much of a lottery. Players who don't spec into rarity or choose power and defense instead are having a harder time finding materials and making meaningful upgrades. The divide between Trade League and SSF players only amplifies this issue. Trade players rely on the market to bail them out, while SSF players are stuck grinding endlessly, hoping RNG is on their side. Both groups are hitting the same roadblock. Crafting lacks balance. The solution isn't simple, but Grinding Gear Games needs to find a way to make crafting more deterministic without guaranteeing outcomes. A middle ground that respects effort while preserving the thrill of randomness could go a long way. Now, let's talk about the Rune system. Right now, using a Rune feels like a permanent, irreversible decision, and that's causing players to hesitate. I know players who are level 80 and above with open sockets on their gear because they're too afraid to use a Rune and regret it later. One suggestion from my community is to allow players to remove ruins at the cost of destroying the item. While this may not be the perfect solution, it's a step toward giving players more flexibility. Grinding Gear Games needs to think outside the box here and create a system that encourages experimentation rather than punishing it. Endgame is where the best and worst of POE 2 collide. There's so much potential, but right now it's plagued with issues. One-shot mechanic that leave players frustrated rather than challenged. On-death effect like Burning Ground that feel punishing instead of fair. Large maps that require backtracking just to find rares and the boss. Towers that feel empty and lack meaningful engagement. And let's talk about pinnacle bosses. Players spend hundreds of hours grinding to reach these encounters, only to be one-shot and lose their map without learning the mechanics. One life isn't enough. These fights should teach players through difficulty, not punish them for trying. Resetting boss health on death is fine, but the current system needs rethinking. Finally, the economy and hacking issues. Duping, hacked accounts, and stolen items are eroding trust in the game. This isn't just about gameplay, it's about the integrity of the entire player experience. Grinding Gear Games needs to take a hard stance here. Permabanning anyone involved in hacking or duping is a start, but they also need to be transparent about their efforts to fix this. Publicly addressing the issue and assuring players it's resolved is essential to restoring confidence in the game. So those are the key issues that POE 2 community has been vocal about. The good news, every single one of these problems is fixable, and I believe Grinding Gear Games is up to the task. That is why early access is for gathering feedback and making improvements. All right, so let's get to the ranking. And again, apologies if I've missed something that's a burning issue to you. Please let me know in the comments section. To be honest, I've been grinding the crap out of the game, so I may have missed one or two burning questions, but let's get to the ranking system. And we're a couple of days away from the live stream happening on Sunday with Darth and Gazzy and Jonathan and Mark, where we're definitely going to get confirmation on what they are going to tackle and what up and coming changes are coming. But let's get to my ranking system. And probably the most easiest one is the hacking. This is a must, in my humble opinion. We cannot have a lack of trust in the economy and the game when it comes to the player base. So hacking to me is a definitely S tier fix. It has to be addressed. And not only does it have to be addressed, but Grinding Gear Games has to publicly come out and step by step, identify what they've done, how they've done it, what they're going to do, and what the penalties are, not only now to what has already transpired with the duping and stealing of gear and currency, but also what the penalties are going to be moving forward. This way, it deters any more further hacking in the game. This is a no-brainer. I would hope you would agree with me. This hacking, it has to stop, and it's got to be S tier, and it can't be slaps on the wrist. It has to be very, very punishing. Up next, let's talk about mapping, which has a lot of issues, but this is in reference to the end game. And mapping, when I say mapping, I encompass all the issues that I talked about before. The fact that these maps are so big, there's a lot of backtracking involved for us to find the rares or to find the boss, and they don't pop up on the map until you're within relatively close proximity. The fact that, let's discuss the citadels. Some people are finding it with ease and laughing at people like me who have yet to find one citadel. So there has to be a better way. Now, some people say get good. It's very easy. Go in a straight line, go west, go east, follow the bodies on the towers. There's all these kind of theories. But at the end of the day, this involves the end game, which most of us are why we play video games, is to get to the end game, because that's where the better loot is. That's where potentially the more difficult content is in the game. So to me, I would also put this up as a high priority. And I'm really hoping this Sunday, Jonathan and Mark go into detail on how they're going to make that experience better. Because let's face it, guys, there are a million opinions out there, but the general consensus is that this is a weakness currently in Path of Exile 2. Now, don't get me wrong, some people are enjoying it, but I would hazard to guess that the majority of the player base would like this improved. So I would definitely put it up as an S tier fix. Let's see what they say on Sunday. Now, class balance. We can talk about nerfs, Archmage. I can go on and on. We can talk about buffs. You know, the warrior needs some love. Just two highlights that I want to mention, but there are many more. But for a video game to really have replayability and fun, I personally believe the classes, the builds in the game all need to be viable, fun, be able to finish the content. I don't think any one class should be far more superior than any other class. They should all be balanced, hence the title. So personally, because this has such a ripple effect on the game and the player's experience, I would be remiss not to put it up here. And I would hope most of you feel the same way. Now, please, before I continue, all these issues, let's face it, they're all important. And I kind of feel silly, you know, prioritizing them and making this list. But we're just doing this just to see kind of how this is going to match up with what gets said on Sunday. But class balance is very important. Now, there are also a couple of these issues that are on the side that I haven't ranked yet, that they're kind of intermingled and they're correlated with each other. So you'll see where I'm going with this. Loot, although they have made an improvement in the currency drop rate and the loot, and Jonathan, leading up to Path of Exile 2's early access release, was always talking about he didn't want this screen full of useless loot. It was the quality over quantity theory. And I love, when I heard that, I really loved it. But in my experience, it's been lackluster. Like, and I'm speaking specifically about the rares. Like, currently I'm in my 37, 38. I'm playing a monk in solo self found. And I really have maybe found one or two items that I'm using in my build currently. And really, I don't want to pull the trigger on wasting currency and slamming items because the bases are just, they're not there. So something has to be done with the loot. Yes, they've made improvements to the currency drop rates, they made improvements to the loot. I just feel it needs to be amped up a little bit more. And then, of course, the loot, and I hope you agree with me on this one, it correlates to the crafting. Because if we're getting better drops, we're increasing our chances of higher success rate with crafting. Now, crafting should always have an RNG proponent to it, but I just find right now the way the crafting is working, it's just too much of a lottery. It's like going into a casino and just putting a stack of chips on red or black, and you got a 50-50 chance. And although there has to be, you can't be 100% deterministic in the crafting, the outcome. It can't be. Then it's boring, right? But crafting definitely is A tier fix, because again, loot is huge in ARPG games, and so is the crafting. And if the two don't combine, I just think that it reduces the fun in the game. And a lot of people, what I'm finding, again, my experience talking to my community, reading what's out there in social media, it looks like a lot of people are hesitant on wasting ruins, exalts with slamming gear. Some people are just hoarding. Now, if you're in trade, here's the other thing. Right now, people would rather go on trade and buy the piece that they need instead of crafting the piece that they need. That says a lot. To me, that is the number one piece of evidence that just shoots down the fact that crafting is not where it needs to be in this game. So to me, crafting, loot, this all has to be a priority. And I'm really hoping on Sunday that Jonathan and Mark address this with the up and coming patch. And again, the Rune System, I had it said to me the other night on my live stream. Someone said to me, I'm a level 84 or whatever he said, and I have a chest piece with 2 open sockets, and there's no Rune in it. I have not, because he's scared he's going to get a better piece, and he doesn't want to be locked into that decision. And therein lies the problem with the Rune System today. It creates that hesitation again, because people they're locked into it. Is this fun? Is this the intent of the Rune System? I really just think it's limiting, and it shouldn't be limiting. It puts stuff in the game that it leaves a bad taste in their mouth. So I personally think this needs to be addressed. Now, I gave you an example how someone in my community said, well, maybe a potential is that, if you want to take the Rune out, the cost of that is you lose the item that you're taking the Rune out of. Now, I don't know if that is the solution, but something has to be done, in my humble opinion, when it comes to Rune systems and trials. I don't want to belabor this point anymore. There's been a lot of content around and opinions around trials, how difficult, and yes, they've made some improvements. I'll be honest with you, I never run the trial of Secamus anymore. I do not like the honor system. I'm an average player, and I get hit all the time. And it's just, I don't do Secamus. I'll do the Trials of Chaos. None of my characters, none. And I have characters in mapping, and I'm at tier 15 maps. Right now, I've done everything in the Endgame except, the Pinnacle bosses and the Citadel bosses, because I've yet to find any Citadels. But none of my characters have the 3rd or 4th ascendancy. None of them. And I'll be honest with you, I could probably go try the Trials of Chaos on my explosive shot Deadeye, but I'm just like, you know what, forget it. I don't want to go through the pain. I've tried it twice and have died twice to those the boss fights, of course, right at the end, to those tornadoes that just pop out of nowhere and there's more than one of them, and it's literally a one shot. Trials, it needs to be fixed. I don't have a solution for it. Maybe drop your solutions in the comments section. But there is such a roadblock right now with getting your ascendancies in this game. And I just I applaud Grinding Gear Games for the level of difficulty in the game. I love it. I don't want them to make the game easier, but this is a massive mountain that a lot of people are not climbing, and it's gotten so bad that people are profiting it from it. People are doing trial carries, which shouldn't be allowed, and I'll be honest with you, that's kind of disgusting. People are benefiting from it in game, and that should also be stopped, in my humble opinion. But trials needs to be fixed. Now, the one shot death mechanic, on death effects, kind of all in the same kind of loop. I have to say, I'm a little bit on the fence when it comes to this, because I love the fact that there's difficulty in the game that can be very punishing. The problem with these issues is the fact that there are circumstances outside of the control of the player that are making these mechanics amplified and worse. And that is just everything that's happening on the screen. It's very difficult to see the on-death effects on the ground. I myself personally have died so many times, whether it be the poison pools, the burning ground. Burning ground is the most cringe on death effect. Like, when you have burning ground on a map, it is disgusting. There's burning ground everywhere, and you're literally tippy-toeing around all the burning ground, plus people are shooting at you. Now, again, call me crazy, it is kind of fun, but when you put on top of the fact that there's a lot of on-screen stuff happening, the enemies are firing at you, you're doing your skills, which cause animation on the screen. It's just a combination that's a recipe that really, really puts a bad taste in players' mouths. So I kind of like it to stay in the game, but it has to be improved, if that makes any sense. And that is why both these one-shot and on-death effects I'm putting as a B priority. I'm not saying that they don't need to be addressed, but I just think I guess what I'm trying to say is I want to keep the difficulty in the game. I don't want to make it easy. I love the fact that there's this amplified engagement between the player and the enemies and the environment, and the level of difficulty being increased in the game. I love that. It's so satisfying when you surmount that challenge, and that's why I play video games. But I can see all these other elements that are adding and compounding to not having fun. Now, the one shots, that's different. The one shots, that's all related to the fact that we only have one shot at killing a boss in a map or the pinnacle bosses. And really, I put one death because I wanted to talk about the pinnacle bosses, where people spend these and I mentioned this earlier on in the video, people are spending hundreds of hours grinding the citadels, getting the mats for it, fighting the pinnacle bosses, walking into the arena, and 5 seconds, boom, they're done. They're not learning the mechanic. There's no experience, and it's it. You lost the map. Now you got to find the citadel. Now you got to grind to get the mats again. Is that really what Grinding Gear Games intended? I don't know. So I don't have a problem with the one death, the one shots. I have a problem with the outcome of it, and that is the fact that you lose the map and that you have to regrind everything all over again. So I'm hoping on Sunday, I don't want them to get rid of the one-shot mechanics in the game, but I do think they got to tweak, maybe giving us more portals. I don't want the boss health in any boss to, not reset. The boss health should reset, and we should only get one chance to kill them as far as their health is concerned. But when it comes to the big content, the pinnacle bosses, I think we should be given more portals just so players can at least learn the mechanics. And they may end up burning, I don't know. I'm not saying give us all 6 portals. Maybe give us 3 portals, 4 portals, reduce the amount of portals from 6 for a pinnacle boss. This way, at least the player can go back in and try to learn as much as they can about the fight and the mechanics. That's all I'm saying. And rarity. This one's a big, big topic. I personally feel they are not going to touch this, but I may be wrong. But I'll be honest with you. I like the fact that we need to make decisions in a game, and depending on our decisions, those have outcomes, right? So some are good and some are bad. So I like the fact that we have decisions to make in this game. So I'm going to put this as a C priority. Not that it's not important, because I know a lot of people don't like the fact that you have to decide, do I want power and defense, or do I want rarity to improve the drops? Now, some of you may argue with me and say that's a stupid question to ask a player, and some of you may agree, hey, that's a fair thing for the game to ask the player. You choose. What do you want? You want more power and defense, or do you want improved drop rates? Both come with pros and cons, right? So personally, I think this is too much of noise out there in the space. I think they're going to talk about it. The question is whether they're going to do something about it. My guess, purely speculation, I don't think they're going to touch it, but we'll see on Sunday if they talk about it. And quality of life. I'm going to put this in the B category. And what do I mean by quality of life? This is an extra thing I put in because I'm really hoping, because I want to talk about this topic. I'm really hoping on Sunday that Jonathan and Mark talk about some quality of life upgrades to the game. And I'm going to just focus on a couple because there are a lot, but definitely we need way more different types of stash tabs. And the first one that jumps out, and if anyone has played in the Endgame, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm sure you're going to agree with me. And that's Waystone maps. We need, whatever you want to call it, we need a stash tab for Waystones. This is getting out of hand. Like, there's a lot of stash tabs that need to be introduced to the game as far as I'm concerned. And that is for sure up there. And please, 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 can we start talking about the fact that our stash tabs in general need a huge upgrade? Search functionality, sorting functionality, like these are, it's such basic in video games, and a lot of other games have them. So I would just like to see some quality of life features introduced and talked about on Sunday for this patch. Okay, that'll do it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this exercise. I'm super excited to see what is going to transpire on Sunday. I'm super happy that Jonathan and Mark are going on the Tavern Talk podcast. DM and Gazzy are really good interviewers, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot of good content out of that interview. So we'll see what happens. I'm super excited. I can't wait. We're finally going to hear what's going to happen, boys. It's going to be exciting. So those are the key issues the POE 2 community has been vocal about. The good news, every single one of these problems is fixable, and I believe Grinding Gear Games is up to the task. This is why early access is for, guys. Gathering feedback and making improvements. Don't lose sight of that. We are testing the game, guys. We're going to be testing the game for 6, 9, 12 months. Could be shorter, could be longer, who knows? But this is what we're doing. We're testing the game. So what do you think? Are there any issues I didn't mention and you're like, Jesus, Sammy, you're so stupid. How did you not mention this? And that you're passionate about? Let me know in the comments section, and let's keep the discussion going. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more POE 2 updates. And join me live on Twitch. Channel name is SamyCaps. I stream every evening. And oh my God, Guys, for all you new subscribers to my channel, and man, last week has just been a whirlwind. I just want to thank you. Thank you so much for the support of my content. I'm very passionate about this game. And if you watched my content, you should know that. I love what we're experiencing now and what the future holds for this game. And I will be talking about every single topic there is to talk about when it comes to Path of Exile 2. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. And thank you so much. Welcome to all the new subscribers to my channel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for the support. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care. The opinions expressed in this video are mine and solely mine. Healthy debate is always encouraged. Hate is never welcomed. So get over it.